All right, on to this story now. A Soweto mother is questioning the circumstances surrounding the death of her son while in custody, that's police custody. It's claimed that Thapelo Modise, who was arrested for drunk driving, died by suicide after shooting himself at the Dobsonville police station on Friday. Mobila Madlala following that story for us, and she joins us in studio to give us exactly what the circumstances are surrounding this tragic death. Mobila, good evening to you. Let's talk about how it is that a person in police custody can get a hold of a gun and then allegedly point it at himself, basically ending their own life.
Well, Koli, according to the mother, she says she was told by the police that her son was arrested during an operation with the Johannesburg Metro Police where they had suspicions that he was drunk and driving. So they then took him to SAPS Dobsonville, and this is where they then took him to a nurse. And when he was with the nurse, at that point, he was supposed to get his blood drawn so that they're able to see if he is in fact drunk and driving and just how far it was. And it seems at that point, that's when he shot himself. It is unclear how he was taken into custody because the mother continues to explain that apparently he was said to have been cuffed from the time when he was taken. His car was driven by the police. It is unclear then why he was not searched before he was taken into custody. And whilst he was being processed, why was he not searched and anything taken from him? And so the mother's saying that she doesn't understand that first process. Why was it not taken? The second part of it is the time or the timeline, which was an issue. She's saying that this happened at about 11 o'clock. That's what she was told. If you speak to IPID, IPID says they were told that it was from 10 o'clock that the incident took place. So the mother says she was told it was 11 o'clock. And they were only called as a family at about 4:30 in the morning when they were told then that the son has passed away and he has taken his own life. Yeah. So the timeline doesn't make sense. Then when they got to the police station, they worried about the fact that they were told that he shot himself, but the gun was not there, the bullet was not there, the nurse that was supposedly there was not there, and they were just told that he shot himself and he shot at the back of the head. They worried about how did he shoot himself when he was drunk at the back of his head. And at the second time, they worried, they say the state they found him in, he had his legs crossed and his arms crossed. The question is, at what point did he cross his legs and his arms if he shot himself in his head? So those are all the questions that the mother has, and she's saying that she's concerned that there's no answers. There's so many discrepancies, and when she questions, she's not given anything.
Do we know whose gun he is alleged to have used in committing or allegedly committing?
So Thapelo Modise
suicide
is basically a VIP personnel. We're told by the mother that he's qualified as a VIP personnel. Right. He works under Brinco, which is an agency that hires these officials, hires bodyguards for officials. But what we also know is that he is also an SAPS personnel. This is according to IPID. So we are told that he has a private gun, which is his gun, which he uses when he's doing his work, which is when he is hired as a VIP personnel. Right. So we are told then that the mother says it's that gun that was used, but the police haven't told us anything, Polly. In fact, when we went to JMPD and SAPS, they said they can't speak because the matter is now being investigated by IPID. Yeah. So they can't tell us in terms of what happened or why it happened or what they didn't do.
I understand that we have a soundbite from the mother of this officer. Let's just take a listen for a moment before we carry on.
Nami is this man. I don't believe ukuthi Thapelo uzibulele. If he was in intention ukuthi uyazibulala, why angasidubulanga la as a law enforcement officer, umuntu womthetho, iphoyisa lena self VIP, angasidubulanga la, angasidubulanga emlomeni or mhlambela. Azosidubula la emuva la kanjani? We need answers. We've got so many questions as a family. So please, like IPID, as they said, they're gonna investigate this case as it's a serious and sensitive case. They're gonna investigate. We are just hoping as a family ukuthi outcome kube outcome right ukuthi nathi as a family sithole closure.
So many unanswered questions from the side of the family, Ngobile. This person was a police officer, but at the same time, he worked as a VIP protector. Do we know who he worked for in his, I guess, in his own time, where he then performed this duty as a VIP protector? Are there any of the people that he's worked for, have they said anything?
Well, Polly, he worked under Brinco, which of course is an agency, which we understand at this point works very closely with ANC. So we are told by the family that he worked mostly for ANC officials. In fact, they were referring to him going to Lutuli and quite often traveling with some of the officials. Namely, one of them was Fikile Mbalula, which was named by the mother. And in fact, the mother was very proud, saying that this was such a great start for her son, that when he started with Fikile, and quite often he would go. But we did, of course, reach out to Fikile Mbalula's office, and they said that it was just for a little bit of time that he worked for them, but the family is quite convinced that he worked for them for quite a lot. And in fact, when we spoke, we then reached out to Matebula, who also said he would be keen to speak about him because he was such a great person, and they also were quite concerned what happened. But we didn't, who we understand, we were given by Fikile Mbalula's office to speak to the person, which we understand is from the ANC, right. Who's then said to us, no, he was such a great person, they worked with him, and unfortunately he couldn't make time then to be able to speak to us. But when we also reached out to Brinco to say, hey, speak to us, they said that they can't comment because they haven't yet reached the family when they tried to speak to them about what had happened. Remember, the incident happened on Friday, and they said since then they hadn't been able to reach the family. And the family did confirm that they were calling them. This case, of course, has to be investigated. The family wants answers. They want to know what happened. They do not believe that this was a suicide. They feel that there was something going on. And the mother kept saying there's something fishy in what was happening. Yeah. So IPID is now investigating death in custody, and that's what they told us. Let's listen in.
Well, unfortunately, as IPID, we cannot be drawn into that discussion because SAPS and GMPD are the officials that effect arrest. So whether he was arrested in the right way or the wrong way, it's not for us as IPID to make a comment on that. Our responsibility is just to investigate the death as a death in police custody. Well, normally the period that we have to finalize our investigation is 90 days. But however, in some instances, it takes us longer than that because there are issues that are part of the investigation that are not within our work. For example, the ballistics. If there's a firearm that was allegedly used, we have to get the ballistics, and unfortunately that is done by the South African Police Service. So if there's a backlog that impacts on the time period that we have as IPID to finalize our investigation, because we are not going to say the investigation are finalized when there are certain issues that are outstanding.
All right, Ngobile Mahlala, we're going to have to leave the conversation there, but a very troubling story, and I'm sure it is one that you are going to continue to follow until we know exactly what happened.